When he seeks delight in sensual pleasure, the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling lies behind this. He does not understand as it really is the origin and passing away, the gratification, the danger, and the escape in the case of these feelings. When he does not understand these things, the underlying tendency to ignorance in regard to neither painful nor painful feeling arises behind this. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it as one bound. If he feels a painful feeling, he feels it as one bound. And if he feels a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he feels it as one bound. This bhikkhu is called an uninstructed worldling who is bound by birth, aging, and death, who is bound by sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, who is bound by suffering, I say. Bhikkhus. When the instructed noble disciple is contacted by a painful feeling, he does not grieve or lament. He does not weep, beating his breast, and become distraught. He feels one feeling, a bodily feeling, not a mental feeling. Suppose an archer were to strike a man with one arrow, but the second arrow would miss the mark, so that the man would feel a feeling caused by one arrow only. So too, when the instructed noble disciple is contacted by a painful feeling, he feels one feeling, a bodily one, not a mental one. Being contacted by that painful feeling, he harbours no aversion towards it. Since he harbours no aversion towards painful feeling, the underlying tendency to aversion towards painful feeling does not lie behind this. Being contacted by painful feeling, he does not seek delight in sensual pleasure. For what reason? Because the instructed noble disciple knows of an escape from painful feeling other than sensual pleasure. Since he does not seek delight in sensual pleasure, the underlying tendency to lust for pleasant feeling does not lie behind this. He understands as it really is the origin and the passing away, the gratification, the danger, and the escape in the case of these feelings. Since he understands these things, the underlying tendency to ignorance in regard to neither painful nor pleasant feeling does not lie behind this. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it detached. If he feels a painful feeling, he feels it detached. If he feels a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he feels it detached. This bhikkhu is called a noble disciple who is free from birth, aging, and death, who is free from sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, who is free from suffering, I say. This bhikkhu is the distinction, this disparity, the difference between the instructed noble disciple and the uninstructed worldling. The preceding section emphasizes knowing things as they are, knowing what to revise and what to cultivate in the heart, and knowing what is gained by such revision and cultivation. The proper conduct in relation to revision and cultivation is a matter of practical application, which will be addressed below. 5. Orthodox Explanation. The orthodox explanation of dependent origination is detailed and intricate. Its study requires extensive knowledge of the texts and of the Pali language. Much of that material is beyond the scope of this book, and here a basic summary must suffice. A. Factors of dependent origination. Avidya 1, Sankhara 2, Vijnana 3, Namarupa 4, Salayantana 5, Passa 6, Vedana 7, Tanha 8, Upadana 9, Bhava 10, Jati 11, Jara Marana 12, Soka Parideva Dukkha Domanasa Upayasa is Dukkha Samayudaya, origin of suffering. The cessation of suffering follows the same sequence. The cyclical nature of dependent origination may be illustrated as follows, with an image of the one is ignorance, which is surrounded by grief, despair, sorrow, lamentation, pain, and then go to volitional formations, consciousness, mind and body, 6 sense basis, contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, birth, aging and death. And B. Definitions. First, here are basic and literal definitions of these 12 factors. 1. Avidya, ignorance. Ignorance of truth, a lack of clear understanding. 2. Sankhara, mental formations, volitional formations, volition and all mental phenomena stored up in the mind. 3. Vijnana, consciousness, knowledge based on cognition. 4. Nama Rupa, mental and physical phenomena, the mind and body. 5. Salayantana, the 6 sense basis, the 6 doorways of cognition, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. 6. Passa, cognition, contact between the sense basis, ayantana, the sense objects, ramana, and consciousness, vijnana. 7. Vedana, feeling, the sensation of pleasure, pain, and neutral feeling. 8. Tanha, craving for sense pleasure, for becoming, and for non-existence. 9. Upadana, grasping, clinging, appropriation. 10. Bhava, becoming, state of existence, mode of being, collective results of volitional action, karma. 11. Jati, birth, the manifestation of the aggregates clung to as self. 12. Jara Marana, aging and death, the decline of the faculties and dissolution of the aggregates. Second, here are the formal doctrinal definitions. 1. Avidya, ignorance of suffering, of the origin of suffering, of the cessation of suffering, and of the way leading to the cessation of suffering, the Four Noble Truths. and according to the Buddhadhamma, ignorance of the past, of the past and future, and of dependent origination. 2. Sankhara, bodily volition, kaya sankhara, verbal volition, vaci sankhara, and mental volition, citta sankhara, and according to the Buddhadhamma, meritorious volition, punya bi sankhara, demeritorious volition, apunna bi sankhara, and imperturbability producing volition, anenja bi sankhara. 3. Vijnana, the 6 kinds of consciousness: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. 4. Nama rupa, mind, feeling, perception, intention, contact, and attention. And body, the 4 great elements, and form that depends on these 4 great elements. The Buddhadhamma defines name as the feeling aggregate, the perception aggregate, and the volitional formation aggregate as follows: Vedana Kanda, Sanya Kanda, and Sankhara Kanda. 5. Salayantana, the 6 sense basis: eye, kakku, ear, sota, nose, gana, tongue, jiva, body, kaya, and mind, mano. 6. Pasa, the 6 kinds of contact by way of the ear, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. 7. Vedana, the 6 kinds of feeling arising from contact by way of the ear, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. 8. Tanha, the 6 kinds of craving for forms, rupa, tanha, craving for sounds, sada, tanha, craving for smells, gana, ganda, tanha, craving for tastes, rasa, tanha, craving for tactile objects, potaba, tanha, and craving for mind objects, dhamma, tanha. Upadana, 9 upadana, the 4 kinds of grasping: kamupadana, grasping onto sensuality, to forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and tactile objects. Titupadana, grasping onto views, ideals, theories, and beliefs. Silabatupadana, grasping onto rules and practices, believing that in themselves they lead to spiritual purity. And Attavadupadana, grasping onto self, creating a false idea of self, and then clinging to this idea. 10. Bhava, the 3 spheres of existence: the sense sphere, kama bhava, the fine material sphere, rupa bhava, the immaterial sphere, arupa bhava, alternatively 1. The speed of kama, kama bhava, the active process of becoming, equivalent to meritorious volition, demeritorious volition, and imperturbability producing volition. See sankhara above. And 2. The passive process of becoming, upati bhava, equivalent to the sense sphere, the fine material sphere, and the immaterial sphere, the sphere of perception, sanya bhava, the sphere of non-perception, asana bhava, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, Neva Sanan Sana Bhava, the sphere of one constituent being, Ekavokara Bhava, the sphere of four constituent being, Katuvokara Bhava, and the sphere of five constituent being, Panchavokara Bhava. 11 is Jati, the birth of the five aggregates, the arising of the sense spheres, Ayatana, alternatively the arising of these various phenomena. 12. Jara Marana, Jara, aging, weakening of the faculties, and Marana is death, the breaking up of the aggregates, and end of the life faculty. Jivitindriya, alternatively the degeneration and dissolution of these various phenomena. General explanations. Here are several examples that give a brief and simple explanation for these factors of dependent origination. Asava, Avidya, the belief that going to heaven is the highest happiness, the belief that killing others will bring happiness, the belief that suicide will bring happiness, the belief that birth as a Brahma god will bring immortality, the belief that heaven is reached by making propitiatory offerings, the belief that Nibbana is reached by undertaking austerities, the belief that there is a presently existing self that will be reborn as a result of certain actions, the belief that nothing exists after death, thence Sankara, thinking and inclining in the direction of or in accord with such beliefs above, conceiving modes of conduct and action, karma, based on such intentions. These actions may be good, punya, bad, apunya, or papa, or imperturbable, anenja, si anenja bi sankara, above, thence. Vijnana, awareness and cognition of sense impressions that specifically conform to such intentions. A consciousness with particular qualities is generated. At death, the force of volitional formations, sankhara, of created karma, induces rebirth linking consciousness, patisandhi vijnana, with appropriate properties to take rebirth in a plane of existence suited to it. Nama-rupa, birth leads to a body and a life that is prepared to perform subsequent karma. There arise the body aggregate, rupakanda, the feeling aggregate, vedana-kanda, the perception aggregate, sanya-kanda, and the volitional formation aggregate, sankhara-kanda, which possesses the properties and deficiencies endowed in them by the force of previously generated karma. These aggregates are also conditioned by the nature of the particular plane of existence, depending on birth, say as a human being, an animal, or a celestial being. Salayantana, in order to respond to the external world, to enable cognition and to satisfy personal needs, there must be a channel for associating with the external world. With the support of mind and body, Namarupa, life proceeds according to the force of karma. kamic momentum, to the point where there arise the six senses, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind, which cognizes internal phenomena. Phassa. Cognition takes place by the contact or coming together of three factors: the internal sense basis, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind; the external sense objects, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, tactile objects, and mind objects; and consciousness, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness with cognition. Vedana. There arises feeling or sensation, either as pleasure, sukha vedana, pain, dukkha vedana, or neutral feeling, adukkama sukha vedana, or upekkha vedana. For unawakened beings, the process does not end here as a consequence. Tanha. When experiencing pleasure, there is delight, covetousness, and greed. When experiencing pain or discomfort, there is aversion, annoyance, and hostility. A person is agitated and wishes for the feeling to disappear. He wishes to escape from the painful feeling, painful object, seeking to replace it with a pleasurable object. Alternatively, a person experiences a neutral feeling of indifference, which is a subtle feeling classified as a form of pleasure. Since there is no aversion, it is a mind feeling of ease, thence upadana. When desire is heightened, there is grasping. A person becomes attached to and preoccupied with an object. Before an object is acquired, there is craving. After the object is acquired, there is grasping. Grasping is not confined to desirable sense objects, kamupadana, but extends to associated views and opinions, titupadana, to ways of practice for acquiring desired objects, sila batu padana, and to a sense of self, attavadu padana. These different forms of grasping are linked. As a consequence, there is bhava, the intention to act in response to the aforementioned grasping. This intention, which conforms to the specific craving and grasping, leads to the entire range of behavior, the active process of becoming, kama bhava as good, bad, or imperturbable, aninja. For example, a person may wish to go to heaven and believes that certain actions will lead to this end, and thus performs these actions. At the same time, he or she prepares the conditions for existence, the five aggregates that will appear in the state of existence befitting the karma, the passive process of becoming, upatibhava. When creation of karma operates in this way, at the moment when a lifespan ends, the force of the accumulated karma, kama bhava, impels the next stage of the cycle. Jati. Starting with rebirth linking consciousness, patisandhi vijnana, which conforms to the karmic momentum. There is birth in a realm of existence appropriate to that karma. The five aggregates arise and life begins. Mind and body, the six sense bases, contact and feeling arise, and the wheel of dependent origination continues. With birth there is certain to be jara marana, deterioration and destruction of life. For unawakened people, aging and death are constantly felt as threatening and oppressive, both overtly and subconsciously. Therefore, in the life of ordinary people, aging and death are linked too. Sutta Sukha Parideva Dukkha Domanasa Upayasa, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, which collectively are referred to as suffering. The concluding line of dependent origination is thus: such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering.